Welcome back, everybody, to Double Dip Draft Season 5. We are on Week 1 Crown Division recap. It is your boy, Spood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers. Joining me, as always, the lovely
Aurora, coach of the Huntsville Hunters. And yeah, the season has officially started. The first matches are in, and we're here to take a look at the results.
Yeah, it was an interesting Week 1. So there were a couple of matches that a lot of people were hyped to see. I know I, in particular, was really excited for Chemith versus Nihilus and Firebolt versus Mass. Those were the two that I thought were going to be the most interesting to watch from this week. But we got some new faces. We got some old guard playing for, defending their title. So I guess let's have a look. Let's see who managed to make a mark and start off strong in Week 1, and who maybe needs to make up the difference later. Starting with our first match, we've got Chemith, coach of the Ne'er-Do-Well Nido Kings, versus Nihilus of the Dallas Ducklets, his first season playing here with us today. And he got off rough, man. He had to, his very first match, play the runner-up of Season 4, Chemith, who came off of a really, not even just in terms of placement, but in terms of actual, win-loss. He had an astounding record, finishing his group stage last season at 6-1, and then literally getting all the way to Grands. He only lost, 2 sets the entire season. So he's right here versus Nihilus, so he's really gonna put him to the test and see if he's got what it takes to make a difference in the double dip draft of meta.
And Nihilus having to run a tough gauntlet right off the bat, but despite that, this was a very strong match from both sides.
Yeah, I was very impressed. I felt like the last thing that Nihilus did was make it easy for Chemith. This was, they were really scrapping until the very end. It ends in a very peculiar way, and I'd love to, Aurora, if you'd indulge me, I'd love to take a look and watch it with you.
Let's get into it.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go! Yeah, the teams are, pretty standard for what they're bringing. This was a pretty telegraphed opener on both sides. Zero Aura is pretty much always going to be running Grass Knot to counter the Water Ground if you have it in the back, and this was no exception.
Yeah, and we also immediately see, items revealed on all sides, left, right, berries, life orbs, levitates, and leftovers.
Yeah, Rindo Berry, the classic. I feel like more often than not, you're going to see Water Grounds running Rindo Berry in draft. As long as, obviously, there's an appropriate threat to be concerned by. But even, I believe that with Rindo, it lives a hit from Bulu and can Sludge Wave it to death or Ice Beam it or whatever it's running.
Yeah, it can definitely put a giant hit into whatever it's facing. Especially if you are expecting that grass type move, you can be certain that your opponent is probably not switching out that turn.
Yeah, especially, and I'm interested in honestly just this whole setup. So right here, that's a godlike play. That's actually huge balls to jump in on the Thunder Wave and get the recovery, and it keeps Zero Aura quite scary in the back for a while. Also, that -2, or rather, I guess it's not -2, but still, neutral overheat is not going to do a lot to Quag. Doesn't even matter if it's -2 actually, because it's unaware. So
yeah. Also, it does immediately bring us into one of the things that's going to matter in the end game, which is the overheats on this thing.
Yes, so the Rotom set, it's very physically bulky. It was made to sort of sit on Rillaboom and Zero Aura, Glastrier to an extent. But that thing, it only has one attacking move. It's running Overheat. Otherwise, it's got Thunder Wave, Pain Split, and Will-O-Wisp, I think? What's it running? I forget.
Overheat,
Nasty Plot,
Thunder Wave, Nasty Plots, and Pain Split as well.
Yeah. This Pokemon, the overheats hit hard, and nasty plotting up to make sure your overheat always matters it's really good. But it gets to a point later, believe it or not, the Galarian Weezing just refuses to die for the remainder of this game, and it really causes Chemith some trouble. And all he can really do to break through it is overheat. But when he's only got 8, you got to be careful with how you play him, especially in a match that ended up being a lot bulkier. Nihilus has Assault Vest Incineroar, obviously Unaware Quag, and Galarian Weezing with Pain Split Recover and leftovers. So it's pretty tough to break through Nihilus' core. But of course, Chemith on the other hand has Clef, has Fizz Def Rotom, Seismitoad has Water Absorb, of course. So they both have some really fat cores in the back.
Yeah, and also we just see like constantly like this Zero Aura on Nihilus' team just clinging to life with all of its might.
Yeah, it refuses to die.
Yeah, it got a life boost from the Voltage Orb earlier. It's going to get one from the grassy terrain later as well to live another one of its own life orb damages.
Yeah. And I was honestly very impressed with Nihilus' performance, because as somebody who hadn't played in a league beforehand, he was very aware of some higher concept things that you have to get used to in Smogon, like stealth rocks and, you know, playing around like win cons and things. Like, he very clearly had an idea of what he had to do to end the game in his favor, and he was very adamantly clinging to stuff like his Zero Aura living so that he could put the pressure out that he needed to get his switches in, like the Rillaboom and things.
Yeah, and speaking of this Rillaboom, we also interesting to see it like pretty much only be using drum beating, which is it's banded drum beating, which lowers the opponent's speed and making it faster again.
Yeah. Drum beating is not, it's like pretty off meta, you know, it's a signature move for Rillaboom, and I feel like it's good in some scenarios, but maybe not so much versus Rotom. I guess it was kind of good versus Rotom, because it wasn't like he could really hit it hard anyway, but with the drum beating, he's guaranteed to get off 2 if it switches in hard, which might just be enough.
Yeah, it's also at least 10 base power stronger than Grassy Glide is, which this thing might have also had. I don't think we ever, we don't ever see anything other than coming out of it.
That Ice Crash miss was unfortunate as well. I probably didn't matter too much, but it still did neutral damage to Seismitoad, so.
It might have changed like a couple things in the end game, but I think left way or right way, the Chemist probably would have come out on top just due to the sheer lack of offense on Weezing.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate. Nihilus also knows clearly that he can't really get anything rolling with Glastrier because of Sirfetch'd in the back, and Rotom as well. Because obviously that thing is slow as shit and is not going to be doing enough damage to outpace anything. But Weezing is right back up to 69, very nice. Goes up to 75-1 recovery with lefties, and we're starting to realize, if we're Chemith, that breaking this Weezing is just not really happening.
Yeah, we've run out of like most offensive options which would have worked well against it, namely the special Galvantula, which probably would have done a decent number on it.
Yeah.
And this Rotom only has 2 overheats left, and Nihilus has plenty of Pokemon in the back to either like take it, bait it out.
Yeah, because he can easily switch in on it with Incineroar, because it's Assault Vest, and even Zero Aura like can come in as a sack if he feels like he absolutely needs to. And with only the 2 overheats, it's just impossible. He has to burn one there to get rid of Glastier's sub so he doesn't lose to it later. Because obviously, if he lets the Glastrier just start like hardcore setting up on him, you know, he can't like paralyze it in sub or anything. So he has to bring it out. And if it's in sub, it can heavy slam Clef. It can, you know, Ice Crash on Sirfetch'd or something. So it pretty much claims the life if he doesn't burn one of his only 2 overheats right there.
Yeah, it is so tough. It's like the only thing Chemist has that can realistically take hits from it is the Rotom.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate, you know. He has to sit there and set up. Nihilus attempts to bait the overheat on a Zero Aura sack, but it ends up not really panning out. So he goes into Incineroar to sort of force another move, get a little bit of chip. This thing was running a mixed set, which was kind of strange. I don't know if there was a rationale to that beyond just like, I don't know. There either was some kind of calc that benefited heavily from Dark Pulse over like Darkest Lariat, or maybe he was like, I don't know, trying to flinch cheese or something, but that's really the only thing that I felt was kind of questionable from the team building perspective. I think Nihilus really took stock of Chemith's threats and tried to bring stuff that could deal with them.
And did a pretty damn good job of it too, given that you know, once some key parts of Chemist's teams are gone, this Weezing especially, it's just sitting here, and having that Incineroar in the back makes it so much stronger.
Yeah.
Also, the amount of Stealth Rock play on both sides is also just really strong, with Chemith setting them up at every opportunity, knowing that they do hinder Nihilus a lot, given that the Incineroar does not have boots.
Yeah.
But, Nihilus manages to bring in this Weezing just over and over again, defogging them away again and again.
And it just refuses to die. And now they're in a very tricky situation for Chemith, because he needs to kill this Weezing with his last overheat. He only has the one left, but obviously Nihilus still has the Incineroar sack. So he has to pick the exact turn where he expects there to be an overheat and either protect on Weezing or hard switch into Incineroar. And luckily for Nihilus, he does it. And so now Incineroar is dead, but breaking through the Weezing is off the table.
Yeah, so instead we have to go to plan B, which is realizing that this Weezing's only attacking move, much like Rotom's Overheat, is just Strange Stream. And Nihilus had been using it liberally.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot hanging out in the end game, You could think in terms of, like, if you were really on that WinCon shit, you could be like, well, I guess I could technically, like, crit every time, proc Confusion, and get fully, like, stuck on Confusion, hitting themselves over and over while I'm using non-Strange Theme moves to really maximize. Because all you need to do really is kill Rotom and Clef. But if it's not impossible, it's close to impossible. At this point, it's really just PP stall.
Yeah,
and it's just a game that Nihilus cannot win because he only has one Pokemon.
Yeah, actually looking at it, given that at the end game, when it was just Weezing left, he only had 5 Strange Teams left. And the crit does 21 to Rotom, who has leftover still.
Oh, that's
that means that he never could have offensively won this match.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because I felt like the Weezing was really good, and if I don't know how I would have played it differently into the end game, but he needed something that could deal with Rotom more effectively, and he just had nothing that could hit it, except for Quag, which he lost way too early.
Yeah, I think perhaps if the Protect on this Weezing had been like Sludge Bomb or Sludge Wave,
could have been better, yeah.
We might have seen a Nihilus W here in Venezuela.
Yeah, it was very tight. Honestly, yeah, if he had Sludge Bomb, then he could have easily taken care of Clef. He could have poisoned the Rotom and gotten the sustain right in the final situation. And plus, obviously, we just out-damaged Strange Steam on account of not being resisted.
Yeah, I'm just looking, like, what did Protect do? Because it was used 3 times.
I think, it may have just been to Scout, because things like Rotom and Sirfetch'd, you kind of want to see if maybe they're running some kind of choice item or, to kind of modify your play accordingly.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it right now. It was used on turn 6, and then the opposing Rotom used Nasty Plot. It was used on turn 24 when the Linoon parting shot it, which made it take more toxic damage than what actually was relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And it was used on turn 38 when Chemith switched. So the Protects really weren't necessary, I feel.
Yeah. It, I don't know. I think that it was well thought out to have Protect on the Weezing, but ultimately, yeah, I think just a slight moveset tweak, and you would have seen Chemith going into week 2 at 0-1.
Yeah.
But that's, obviously, you can't really hang up on it or kick yourself for it too bad, especially versus somebody with now who has Chemith's pedigree, after last season. You really take what you can get, and honestly, just going down by 3, like, you could do better, you could do worse, versus one of the top seeds of your entire pool. I would just say we take those. Try to hold it and move on, and just be like, all right, gotta get through Chemith, next week I gotta get through Scoots, and then I can really sort of buckle down and hedge my bets versus people closer to my skill level. But this was a strong showing.
Yeah, it's also a question, the game does announce one winner, one loser. That does not mean that Nihilus played poorly at all. Nihilus played very strongly. They both came out swinging. And Nihilus has really shown that despite being a new face, don't sleep on him.
No, absolutely not. And I feel like he's going to have some really good showings down the line in this division. I would bet my life savings, which is admittedly not much money, I would bet my life savings on Nihilus getting at least one this season, if not, like, being in actual contention for playoffs, just given what I've seen from this opening game.
I'm looking forward to seeing Nihilus in playoffs, honestly. I can see it happen. If this is level we're working with.
Got another shiny Eevee on Pokemon Go. It's Eevee Community Day while we're recording this. That's number fucking 12 today, baby. Let's go. All right, no one's here to listen to my Eevee. Let's just keep it skeevy. and push on to the very next game. Why don't you introduce it for us, Aurora?
Our next game consists of Cabral coaching the... Yep.
Slinging
Aegis Slashers.
You got
yes,
it.
I totally didn't forget. And Vincent, coach of the Hairland Haluchas.
Yeah.
And this game was something. I feel this was definitely a weaker showing from Cabal's end.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm inclined to agree. You know, Vincent looks very, very strong after last season, coming in third, actually, beating IDM in the bronze match, and honestly, just sort of a little bit of good fortune and clearer play from easily landing in grand finals, possibly even having taken the whole season. So you definitely do not want to sleep on Vincent, and I think Cabral knew in his heart, he was like, okay, Vincent's a scary opponent. I got to make sure I bring my A game, but he's definitely still shaking off some of that mid-season rust, because despite looking relatively strong his first season at 3-4, he did not put on an amazing showing versus Vincent.
Yeah, and let's just get right into it so we can see some of the missteps that were made along the way here.
Sure. 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. Yeah, Archeop's lead is pretty scary, actually. Aurora sort of enlightened me to the power of this thing as like a rocker. But Cabral showed no fear. He just knocked that, or glared it, coiled, and he was just like, alright, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, just getting that setup done, and then this.
And then he just kind of gives it away. It's unfortunate. I don't know if he just thought that the defense boost would be enough to carry him through triple axel, or maybe he was hoping it would miss, or I don't know. He played it real fast and loose there with his Zygarde and pretty much instantly lost it.
Yeah, which is a shame because Cabral did have a very prepared answer for Cinccino in this Miltank.
Yeah, this Miltank is Sap Sipper, so it's immune to Bullet Seed. And Triple Axel is not going to be doing a ton to this thing. It doesn't even need to have Thick Fat to prevent it. It's just non-stab from Cinccino, which isn't the strongest thing in the world. So, hey, I found a shiny Eevee again! Woohoo!
We're watching the match.
I'm sorry! I'm paying attention!
Archeop just tragically dies to a missed head smash.
Oh yeah, the Archeop head smash miss was funny.
Yeah, which is just, that's just peak Vincent at this point.
Yeah.
His luck is just notoriously bad.
And Cabral feels so bad for him that he just donates his Gastrodon. He says, don't worry, man, I'll give you a free one. It's really just unfortunate, too, because I feel like Cabral falls into this habit during this game where he's he's not making reads, and neither is Vincent, but Vincent's just hitting what's in front of him, and Cabral's just letting him do it.
Yeah, it's also a question of if you are in the advantage position, you can make the option to just not make the read and just go and try to hit it or whatever's in front of you, seeing if your opponent is trying to overpredict you.
Yeah.
Trying to change the game back in their favor. But I feel like Cabral definitely needs to be making reads here, and he's just not.
Yeah,
also,
especially
this thing dying to 2 full para.
Yeah, and this sucks too because Vincent would have looked way better even if he just didn't get super lucked, right? Like losing his Archeops on the missed head smash and then losing his Mandibuzz on the double full para. It's just kind of I love Cabral, and I think he does have the chops for performing well in this season and in this draft league in general. But I just feel like he really was not putting forward 100% in this match. It just kind of was an I hope that Vincent doesn't hit me with the move that blatantly kills me right now. Which, you can get away with that when you're ahead, or maybe if you're really trying to make up some ground and you have to make these super aggressive plays. But even in a situation where Cabral has a lot of answers alive to deal with the offensive threat in front of him, he just risks it, and it just does not pay off at all.
Yeah, and stuff like here where he's sending out the Vaporeon to come deal with this Lycanroc, where Miltank with Body Press is very easily able to take care of it. Just questionable decisions like that.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate too, because he just throws that away, and he could still have, more Pokemon in this endgame to deal with the Silvally, the Registeel, the Cinccino, but Vincent pretty convincingly takes it 3-0 with, honestly, I would say not even breaking a sweat. It just seemed like he didn't have to put forward a lot of, he was playing fine, he was playing well, obviously, but he wasn't pulling off anything that crazy. He just kind of hit what was in front of him and was prepped to hit most of the threats on Cabral's team, and Cabral just let him do it.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you for a fact that Vincent actually was breaking a sweat when clicking triple axel and Stone Age, because
Well, that's true. Yeah, he does have
you know him. You know
he
him.
does miss moves a lot. Vincent plays with I don't know. He's got sludge in his eyes in real life, and so he just can't hit anything.
Yeah, it's, the game doesn't actually show it, but all of his mons are getting hit by sand attack the first turn they come in.
Right. He's basically got an entry hazard exclusive to him, where he just loses one accuracy on switches.
Or just all opponents just are allowed to run Bright Powder.
Yeah, pretty much. You're running like double item, like Bright Powder, Life Orb, or whatever. It just sucks. I mean, there's not lots to say about it. I mean, it doesn't suck for Vincent, who definitely was just like, yeah, you know, when you get your first win in week 1, you're kind of cruising. You know, you're set up to have potentially, you know, an easier bracket going forward. Whereas obviously, if you start off 0-1, you're already kind of digging yourself a hole you need to start getting out of as soon as possible.
Yeah, I've also like slowly become a huge believer in momentum, not just like with contained within a single match, but as well as just like in a tournament together. Like if you start winning, it's easier to keep winning because you've already figured out like, oh, these sets on my mons work, these reads that I made on my opponent worked. Whereas if you're losing, you're still struggling and flailing around trying to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah, which is just unfortunate. I mean, I couldn't give Cabral any better advice than to just say, you know, make some predictions, or instead of making predictions, just switch into what's safe. I feel like there's a very underrated, at least in sort of lower skill circles, people don't understand that safe play is not bad play, right? Predictable play is predictable because it's the closest thing to the objectively correct play in a given situation. So, like, if you fear Bullet Seed on Gastrodon, just go into the Milk Tank. You know, if you're still trying to feel out your opponent, or you see that they continue to play aggressive and try to make these reads or whatever, you can sort of modulate your play around that. But I think that there's a good value in safe play at the beginning of a match, assuming that you're going in without enough knowledge to know what you should be clicking instead. Assuming, obviously, that there is an objective correct play. But like we said, you know, he brought, like, the Milk Tank was an answer for Chinchino and did not fulfill that role because Cabral never brought it in. He just kind of let it kill things.
Yeah, it's also a question of just like information is extremely valuable, and had Cabral seen like, oh, this Chinchino is packing Bullet Seed, which you could have predicted, you could have not predicted, that's sort of up to a personal level. But, you know, at least like knowing that for certain and seeing it also sort of like activates the brain. It also makes it, if you hover over it like in battle, it'll tell you, you know, it used Bullet Seed.
Yeah.
Be careful, because water types don't like that.
Yeah. So there's just not a lot to say, I think, about it. Cabral kind of just got worked by Vincent, and Vincent looked pretty solid doing it. So I think that I think this season is going to be one where people really have to look out for Vincent. I have a feeling he's on the cusp of like a crazy run, crazier than his run last season, which was already a crazy run. You know what I mean?
Yeah, his team's looking strong. Silvally is always like a dummy ace in the hole to have.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And he is out for blood after losing to RNG last season, I can tell you.
Oh, I believe it. I would be too. I mean, I would just be livid. So, definitely keep an eye on Spoopman, and hopefully we'll see Cabral tighten it up a bit in week 2.
Yeah. Why don't you introduce us to the third match we're going to be taking a look at here?
I would love to. I would love to show you, Aurora, my favorite match of the week. It is not the best match of the week, not even close. We've got Mass, coach of the Minneapolis Magnazones, versus Firebolt1246, coach of the Minnesota Magikarps. This one was really hyped because Mass is kind of a player to keep an eye on, because last season he ended up going 1-6, right? He managed to just barely win his final match versus Woody in that season. And that was his first season, so that was his first win ever. So he's technically just coming off his first win, someone that maybe you'd be more inclined to pass over if you were looking at threats in the division. But his draft looks really strong, I think. And especially versus Firebolt, it felt like he had a lot of answers, and Firebolt's someone who... I feel like Firebolt's a very high variance player where he can beat really good people and then lose to really bad people, sort of at the same time. I feel like he's capable of the full spectrum of performances. And so
Firebolt embodies the duality of man.
Absolutely. And so there was a good chance that he like jumped into this as somebody who is seeded to, you know, make playoffs. There was a good chance that he could actually drop this first game to Mass. And Mass was really gunning for it. He really, really wanted it. Because, I mean, you know, he just got his first win. He's been really grinding between seasons. He was really looking forward to making a mark. And, well, Aurora, did he make a mark? What did Mass do this week? Would you like to find out?
I would love to come find out with you.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. The Duraludon is actually pretty good, I think. Is your mic fucked, or should I stop? Or?
No, like
Okay,
I
I
couldn't
didn't know.
hear you for like a solid couple.
Okay.
couple.
Got it.
Sorry.
All right, should I start over? Do you want to start over, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, sure. Let's just
Sure.
start this little section over.
Sure.
Just start with like the countdown to the.
All right, sure. Corral, you better cut this. If this shit makes it into the final video, you're gay. That's what I'm saying. All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
And off we go.
And off we go. Dual Screens Duraludon starts it off. Firebolt kind of acknowledges, like, actually, this thing does do quite well. It doesn't have the fairy weakness that you normally see on a dragon type, and it gets to benefit, of course, from Dragon's really good resistances. So Firebolt just kind of figures, yeah, you know what, this is a good opener to screen. Even though it's pretty slow, like, it can still kind of get me some good defensive momentum off the rip.
Yeah, I also feel that Mass isn't taking the, like, probably had the opportunity to go in for a defog at some point, but he's just not, and these screens, like, almost, you know, reach their maximum amount of turns.
Yeah, Rotom really should have come out here, I think, and just defogged, gotten rid of rocks, gotten rid of screens. Would have been nice. This Primarina, we learn later, is Choice Scarf, incidentally, so didn't want to stay in and risk the Hydro Pump, especially being aware of something like Sandveil, which is what Firebolt's gimmick essentially is this season, is that he's aggressively running Sandveil. And this is actually the best turn ever.
I hate this.
Sandveil just clutch God right when he needs it. Firebolt just massive balls, stays right in front of Primarina and just clicks a button and it dies. Now, unfortunately, he does decide to stay in on this Frostlass, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think that was a bit ambitious. And he even lets it kill him, you know, with this Destiny Bond. So, Mass gets a lot of mileage out of that Frostlass.
Yeah, and I feel like this definitely puts the game back, like, on equal footing.
Mm-hmm.
And now Firebolt is trying to sort of like get his momentum back by setting up the screens again.
Yeah.
And this time we do actually see Mass respond in what I feel is the appropriate manner.
Yeah.
Defogging that shit out of here.
Yeah, no screen, no rocks. But Firebolt's pretty done with this Rotom, and he's got a Draco in the back with your name on it, coin operated. Down it goes.
Yeah. Also, notably, actually very good play by Thunderbolting a couple times first, making sure the Rotom is in range before dropping the Draco.
Yeah, because you don't want to be fighting that thing at -2 special attack, like hucking out really weak Thunderbolts on it. But now it's really scary. I think this Celesteela, from this position, in my opinion, obviously depending on the moveset, has a great chance of just winning, especially if it dodges Stone Edge like that. But then, of course, Toxic misses, and Fireball just whirlwinds it out because he doesn't want it to have speed.
Yeah. Speaking of Stone Edge missing.
And then Stone Edge misses again! Which I don't even... At that point, like, that's definitely the objectively right move. He needed to hit that thing, and it just sets up an Ice Beams in front of this thing. And the Life Orb and Sand actually conspire against him, because here you see a Sucker Punch bring it down to 1 HP.
Yeah, and then, you know, give him how things work.
Yep. And then it's all Celesteela. He goes for Shadow Sneak to get a little bit of chip. He allows it to flame charge up in front of him. He's now at +1. But, of course, the Firebolt Classic Scarf Drapion comes in. Crunch. Lives in Acro. Lives the sand. Actually, the sand ends, so it doesn't even matter. And he manages to get off the double crunch, killing the Celesteela. And Firebolt just about wins that match.
Yeah, the fact that there actually is a universe where Mass wins this, which is only slightly different if Mass had gone for 2 flame charges in a row to deal like just a slight bit of chip damage to Drapion and then beats faster on the last turn.
Yeah,
that actually could have been Mass's game still.
I know, it's
crazy.
Insane. And again, this would be something I think that if he had calced it or had the sort of awareness to be like, okay, Acrobatics is not going to kill from this range, but I can Flame Charge for Chip, get the +2 speed, and then outspeed the Scarfer. Like, if he had done that, then it would have also worked out, like you said, but he just kind of went for it, man. He hedged his bets on it and ended up not panning out.
I'm very curious what this thing's last move is. If you don't see it, it's Toxic, Flame Charge, Acrobatics, and something else. I feel had it been Heavy Slam or Earthquake, this thing would be dead.
Yeah, he would have clicked it probably. I think it's probably like Leaf Seed then, since it's like Toxic.
It might be.
I mean, maybe it's a
Yeah,
little
it's
more
sort of like it's sort of like a 50-50 between offense with Flame Charge and Acro, and then stall with Toxic and Leaf Seed.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, it supplements it not having leftovers as well, since it's running no item for Acro to hit as hard as possible.
That's true. It's actually kind of funny.
So yeah, and I mean, I feel like they both brought some solid sets. I feel like Firebolt had, he made some, we'll say, unsafe plays. I don't think they were necessarily bad plays, obviously, because they kind of played out. He really wanted to get the Sand Veil proc, and he managed to get it right when he needed it. But then he just, same thing that we were talking about with Cabral earlier. He just leaves it in on the Frost Last, says, whatever, I got my 1 kill. I don't need it anymore. And it's like, I don't know, if he kept it into the late game, could have been a bit safer, a little less touch and go with this Drapion. And of course, Mass, if he played only slightly differently, he could have picked up the win instead. So, and this is honestly just, it calls back to the last season, because Mass and Firebolt played in group stage there as well. And that one ended in a speed tie with a Scarf Drapion. It was Scarf Mew with Transform versus Scarf Drapion. And Firebolt won the speed tie and killed him, and had won with just this Drapion Scarf alive. And he did the exact same thing this season, so. Firebolt has a strat, and he's sticking to it.
Yeah, we're definitely just seeing sort of like photo finish after photo finish here with these two.
Yeah, it's honestly, I think the Mass Firebolt rivalry is incredible, and I would love to see it some more. Obviously, the only way we're going to see it anymore is in playoffs, but shoot, wouldn't that be a wonderful world?
Yeah, I'm all for the role for Firebolt and Mass make it into playoffs fight, and then it ends in Scarf Drapion again.
Yeah, that would be incredible. I mean, how could you not? You already know if Mass fights this team again, he's gonna absolutely bring like 4 checks for Scarf Drapion. He's gotta be sick of losing this thing.
I'm looking forward to the Double Diff season 47, where Firebolt is still running that Scarf Drapion even though Pokemon Dick and Balls is out.
Yeah, Pokemon Cock and Balls came out. Yeah. That's too funny. That's funny. You're a jokester, Aurora. That's funny. All right.
That is the role I'm attempting to fill here.
Well, you know what? Let's put the funny aside. I need you to introduce for me the final match of the week.
The final match that took place this week in the Crown Division is Scoots of the Dumble Spoods Army, which I'm pretty sure just forced me to say this now, and Skittles of the Nevada Ninetales.
Yeah, this is one where I feel like the other 3 matches actually could have gone up either way. Like, there were definitely seeded favorites in each of the matches, but, like, I could see Cabral beating Vincent, I could see Mass beating Firebolt, I could see even Nihilus beating Kemeth after that performance. With all due respect, I love you, Skittles, you're the man. I could not see Skittles beating Scoots under pretty much any circumstances, given just the way that, both the matchup and, like, the skill disparity being what it is. Skittles would need a miracle to make this work.
Yeah. I feel we railed on Skittles a little bit during the draft analysis. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that, we're all for being nice here, but we do see like some of the problems in action here. Yeah, no,
I love Skittles. I'm glad he's playing, and I know he wanted to kind of dip his toes into stall a bit and just sort of have fun with it this season, which I think is totally fine. But it definitely, the stuff that we brought up in that video I think is quite relevant here. And actually, Scoots reveals sort of another weakness that we hadn't even considered or didn't really mention. And it's this draft's weakness to taunt. It requires a lot of, like a lot of these Pokemon are fine for stall, but they rely on other moves, like Ferrothorn really doesn't like being taunted. Magnezone nowadays really likes to set up like iron defenses and stuff. It could have like Magnet Rised in front of Landorus. It had some options, and unfortunately under taunt, you don't get to use them. So let's go ahead and take a look at the replay, and you'll sort of see what I mean. 3, 2, 1, go. classic Audino lead. I think
Yeah.
it's dual screens, you know. I was just telling this to Aurora when we were taking our notes, but I always get confused because I keep thinking Audino is fairy type, but it's not. It's not even like dual sort of normal fairy. It's just only normal. It only got a fairy typing when it mega evolved.
Yeah, and even then it stayed dual, which is interesting.
Yeah. Incredible, by the way, that thing lived a Swords Dance Stone Edge. Even in front of a Reflect, it still seemed like it would have killed to me.
Yeah, we harped on like how strong that Landorus is, also in the draft analysis video, and you know, Arachnid is not the bulkiest Pokemon, and it just takes it.
Yeah, I mean
it's
got a lot of special bulk, but its physical bulk isn't as good. But man, it goes ham. And here's the first taunt. You're gonna see this kind of as a repeating theme here.
Yeah. Also, sort of like questionable things with stuff like just throwing the Arachnid away, where you know Stall really usually relies on synergy between your team. So just losing like a part of it immediately, even like at a potential save switch later, just hurts so much. Also, that knockoff making this thing not kill the Chandler.
Yeah.
Ouch.
I adore what Skittles had in mind for this week, and I think it could have worked if maybe he'd like packed a Mental Herb somewhere, but what Skittles obviously wanted to do was set up Trick Room and then get in Choice Banded Ferrothorn, who does have a very respectable, I think, base 100 attack or something. It's actually like pretty good, I remember. And he just wanted to run this Trick Room Banded Ferrothorn to kill shit. And would have worked if he didn't get taunted constantly and then knocked off, you know, and then lost that power. Because, you know, if he were banded, that Chandelure would have died in one shot and he would have been able to keep it in. But obviously, having lost his band didn't pan out that way. And again, you start to see, like, Skittles loses Slowking here when Dusknoir comes in after and then lives a knock from full and kills it back. So it's like, Slowking didn't really need to die. And there's just, like, a lot of sort of... Like, if Skittles just kind of tightened up, like, used the calc and sort of pre-gamed it a bit, maybe, like, drilled with other people, I think this would be something he would be more aware of or would know to sort of fear. But Scoots, I mean, he really just does the easiest job of, like, dismantling, just being like, all right, here's what the threats are, and here's, like, this insanely consistent answer in taunt, and that's really all I have to do.
Yeah, I feel Skills is kind of lacking that in general, just sort of like that one Pokemon that comes in over and over again, soaks up the hits, recovers, and doesn't care. Because like one of the weaknesses of Ferrothorn is that it usually gets worn down slowly, because it doesn't heal outside of either leftovers or Leech Seed.
Yeah.
Like the only sort of consistent thing that Skills had is like the Regenerator Core with Slowking and the Audino. Which, you know, Audino is going to get one shot at some point.
Yeah, it really doesn't have the bulk to sustain the way you'd want a Regenerator Mon to do.
I'd say, like, you can see, like, Slowking is able to, like, take that Shadow Ball to the face from a Chandelure, which is, that's a lot of power. I think it's 100 base 145 power?
Something like
from,
that.
From Chandelure, which is nuts that it just can live that.
Yeah. I don't know. I really like the idea that Skittles had here, and honestly, I think with better execution, he could have seen some real progress. Like, you know, for what it's worth, Scoots does have a hard time switching into a Banded Ferrothorn, depending on what it locked itself into. So maybe if he'd been able to sort of keep his Trick Room setters alive, you know, really abused like teleport regenerator type stuff, you could have seen him, you know, plonk off these important kills earlier, where then maybe he could have actually gotten a leg up on Scoots, but I got another shiny Eevee, so I got really distracted. Excuse me. Hey, you know what? I love Skittles. I think that he has potential to make some stuff work, but the holes in his draft are really shining right now.
Yeah, I feel also just, you know, given that Skittles is only, like, dipping his toes into Stall for, like, the first time, like, you know, really deeply this time, he's going to have to, like, spend a bit of time figuring it out and fine-tuning sort of both the playstyle as well as the team building.
Yeah, because Stall is not brain dead. I know it can feel that way, you know, when you're playing against it, but, you know, there's a certain, like, consistency and sort of knowledge you have to have of, like, what can my opponent do to break this Pokemon, and how do I just play so that it never gets the chance to attack me like that?
Yeah, it's also, you know, at one point you think, like, oh, I can just go into, like, X consistent answer to this Pokemon, and then suddenly it hits, like, Swords Dance or something, and then you realize, like, oh, I'm dead.
Yeah. And it just Skittles his draft does not find an opportunity to get rolling in this game. And I think that if people just play this really aggressive, like anti-trick room, anti-stall style, because we didn't even see Scoots abusing hazards, which Skittles would have had literally no way to remove in this game. That could be another way to sort of just keep this draft from really getting anything going. So I hope to see Skittles, pull it back a little bit and sort of iterate on the draft and iterate on the strategy in a way that maybe he can find some success somewhere down the line. But right now, it's going to be a real mountain to climb.
Yeah, but I look forward to Skittles climbing that mountain, meditating at the top for like a month, and then reaching that enlightenment, and then getting a win in the last one of his games. I
believe in the Monk Skittle arc. I think it has to happen, and it will happen. And you know what, Skittles? You just gotta do it. That's all I gotta say about you, man. You just gotta do it.
Yeah, Skittles, here's the joke that only you'll get. You'll have to learn the way of the mountain monk.
Yeah. You're gonna have to go do a pilgrimage, man. That's all there is to do. So that's really all we have for week 1. We would normally go over the rankings in the division at this point, but there's not much to see. 4 people are 1-0 and 4 people are 0-1, and it's the people we already talked about. So definitely Skittles, Cabral. Who else lost? It was Skittles, Cabral, Nihilus, and someone else. Mass. Skittles, Cabral, Nihilus, and Mass. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have a better week 2. But until that happens, Aurora, I think that's all we have to say for today.
Yeah, I think that's going to round us up for this week. Look forward to seeing the draft the recap of the other side of the division, our division.
Yeah, definitely check out Cabral and White Loaf. They, I think, have already recorded it as of our recording. I don't know. But they should come up as a pair. Definitely feel free to check them out if you want to see what's going on with Aurora and I over in the Armor division, because that's one you won't want to miss.
It's definitely something excited to look forward to. Anyway, my name's been Aurora. It's been Spood, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.